Shalom Aleichem. Thank you for joining me today as we pursue the um, Mussar today of honor. You know, there's a little a quick oil change place near us. It's called Take Five. And as I was thinking about our little checkup today, I thought about that. So, what we're going to do today is just a little checkup. We're going to take five and do a little bit of a checkup on some of our midot, our character traits. And today we're going to be speaking about honor and what is honor and why are so many of us chasing after honor and how do we overcome that temptation? So, I want to start out today with a little wisdom each day from Rabbi Torsky. And this was the other day, Tammuz 7. In this reading, I highlighted it because I felt like it would be important for us to think about this morning. So, one of the parts of our Grace After Meals says this: He has done good for us, He does good for us, and He will always do good for us. Let that sink in. Let that sink in this morning. Right now, as we begin, let your heart just be full and understanding that HaShem has done good things for us and that He's doing good things for us right now, and He will always do good things for us. And this is why we can honor one another, because God has told us explicitly in the Torah that we were created in His image. And not only did He tell us that we're created in His image, but that He calls us His children. So we are so loved and we are so honored and respected by HaShem that He even lets us know, you, human being, were created in the very image of our Creator Himself. And so because of that, it's like when we look at HaShem, it's like looking in a mirror or looking at the water, and there's that reflection of HaShem. And as we look back at ourselves in this mirror, we should see HaShem because we're created in His image. So how do we see ourselves in a mirror and actually see HaShem? Well, sometimes there's like this cloud over it. There is so much, muddiness that we do in our lives to kind of muddy the water. And therefore, we can't really see the reflection of HaShem in our lives. And if we can't see the reflection of HaShem in our lives, then that means that others cannot see Him as well. So as we refine our character traits, then we are basically clearing up the water. And not only can we look into the mirror and feel joy and connectiveness to HaShem because we can see His reflection in us, on our face, and in our demeanor. And that means that others will be able to see it as well. And this is how we become a Lapid, a torch, a light. So if the light of God is shining through us, then others will see it and be drawn to that light. So Rabbi Torsky says this to us. It says that He has done good for us, does good for us, and will always do good for us, can be read, He will do better for us. So as we start out on this journey, there are little things that HaShem is putting before us, these treasures. And as we continue to walk and take these treasures into our life, the Torah is the treasure that we're seeking. The more that we ingest the Torah, the more good is out there and the more we can partake of. God's benevolence is not static. There's always more. His kindness to us is progressive, insomuch as we should eliminate God's attributes, emulate God's attributes. We should not remain static either. We should constantly seek to improve ourselves. And this is what we're doing by studying Mussar, studying our character traits and refining them and making them better, never being static, never staying the same, never putting our lives in neutral, but always going forward. Remember, anytime we become static, we become stagnant. Because if we're not moving forward, we're actually moving backward. It has been said that quality does not mean that we have to be 100% better in just one thing, but it means that we have to be 1% better in 100 things. Let's repeat that. Quality does not mean that we have to be 100% better in one thing. It means that we have to be 1%, only 1% better, but in 100 things. Some people have a very narrow focus. A musician may seek to perfect himself in playing his instrument, that he neglects everything else. But a proper perspective on life requires that we seek to better ourselves in more than one area. This is why, as we're looking at our Mussar, our character traits, we have to evaluate each one of them. We cannot just work on the one and let all the others go by the wayside, because then we're not a whole and healthy person if we do that. So a proper perspective on life requires that we seek to better ourselves in more than one area. Torah is a supreme value. However, if the Talmud says that whosoever has nothing other than Torah does not even have Torah. So what does that mean? Well, it's telling us that if we just study Torah every single day, just study Torah, read Torah, study Torah, but we never put it into action, then we have nothing. Because what is the value of Torah if we are not walking it out, living it out, and using it to help ourselves and better others around us, bringing Tikkun to the world, right? So Torah requires progressive improvement in our character traits. We are to advance ourselves in Hesed, and in the intensities of our prayers, we are to be more considerate and sensitive to other people and their needs and their own dignity, other than our needs and our dignity. So remember, it's not just about us. We are here to perform the midot, to refine our character traits, to be able to reach out to others and support them and build them up. And if we're all doing the same thing, guess what? We're holding each other up. We're advancing forward, and we're meeting the needs of everyone. And in that same way, our needs are being met as well. It says, of course, just as a person who increases his assets by 1% does not stop there, but seeks to further increase them. We should not be satisfied even if we are just 1% better in 100 things, but we should push for further improvement in everything. A business whose earnings are good but not increasing will carefully study their operation. For lack of improvement in earnings is seen as a failure. So wise people will apply this to ourselves. If we are not getting better, we should make a corrected and concerted effort to find out why we're not getting better. So today, we're going to look at just one of our midot, and that is the midot of honor, kavod. Each and every one of us has a holy soul. For we know that the soul that HaShem created in us is perfect. Now, does that mean that all of our character traits are perfect? Not at all. HaShem gave us the character traits, but it is up to us to improve them, to keep them going forward, to keep improving and making them better. So, it says that all humans are invested with a soul, and we possess enormous gifts. We were given enormous gifts on the day that we were created. And these gifts are not our own making. Everything that we have has been given to us. Every good and perfect gift comes from HaShem. So it's not about how we can just constantly just try to improve ourselves for ourselves' sake, but it's about improving ourselves so that we can better service HaShem. For everything that we do, it should be for the sake of heaven. Now, what is the challenge? Well, one of the challenges to honor is first of all, about not judging others. Because you see, when we're trying to chase after honor, why do we chase after honor? Well, there's something within all of us that we want to be liked by others, we want to be respected and basically honored by others. And sometimes, if we have issues with our own self esteem, the feelings about our own worth, what happens is that we then have a tendency to chase after honor. It's like something that's missing in our own lives, our own respect and our own esteeming of our own selves causes us to try to get it from others, always going after and chasing after. Um, and one of the symptoms that we can see perhaps in our own life, if we are constantly reminding others of maybe some of the accomplishments that we have done in the past, maybe it's things that we've accumulated that we want to show off our accumulated wealth or other attributes that we may have, piled upon ourselves. And maybe we want to express these things to others and show these, kind of a show off, kind of a show and tell of all of our great achievements. And this is one of the symptoms that we have to be careful of, because if this is a symptom that we see in ourselves, then what we're doing is we're chasing after others, chasing after the honor or respect of others. We want people to appreciate us. We want people to, pat us on the back and say, hey, attaboy, attagirl, this is awesome. You're amazing. Um, but, if that is how we're receiving honor, we will always be chasing honor. We will all be chasing after it, because basically we know that it's empty, and therefore that hole that's in there is never really going to be filled. So it's like if you're chasing after money, for instance, let's compare honor with money. If we're chasing after money, and that's our one goal, that's the one thing that we feel like if we just had enough of that, we would be happy. Then if that is our purpose in life, is just to chase after wealth, thinking that that's going to fill up this hole that's there, this hole that just can't seem to be satisfied, guess what? We'll never be satisfied. We could accumulate great wealth and it would never be enough. We would always need that one more dollar, that one more investment, that one more opportunity to make more money, because it's never going to be satisfied. And that's the same way about the idea of chasing after honor for ourselves. We could never have enough honor. We could never have enough people giving us accolades and respect and recognition. We would always want to hear the roar of the crowd, so to speak. And it would never be enough. And we would always continue to be unhappy and miserable. So if this is something that we're dealing with, we have to let it go. And how do we do that? First of all, we have to stop measuring ourselves with everyone else. Because if we do that, that actually engenders a critical spirit, this critical attitude that we might develop within ourselves. And maybe you know someone that has that critical spirit, so to speak. And how do you feel about that person that may come up to you and always have a critical word to say about someone else? Maybe in the office where you work, maybe there's someone there that's always saying, did you see so and so what they did? Did you hear about this one and that one? And always, some lashon hara about, another person in the office or something. This is that critical spirit. And this is someone that that is a symptom when we're criticizing and judging and comparing ourselves to someone else. This is another symptom that we're chasing after honor. This is another symptom that we are not esteeming ourselves, that we have that low esteem, that low respect for ourselves. So this is the challenge. Do not judge other people. Do not have that critical, this feeling that we need to critique everyone. Um, so it says here that um, some people spend a lot of mental energy appraising other people and saying, how do I measure up to them? How am I better than they are? And this is a sign, it's another symptom that we're anxious about how we compare with others. If we are always judging them or having some kind of a critique. So we have to do a little check on this. Let's take 5 and look and see if perhaps there's some of that maybe in us, that we have maybe a little problem with our own ego. So if you walk into a room and you find yourself not even thinking about it, but maybe you find yourself looking at each individual as you're passing them and making some kind of a little critique, whether it's like the color of the shirt someone has on, or that new haircut they have, or the way they spoke or didn't speak to you, or where there's just a little bit of a critique. We have to be very careful that it's not just maybe we're being observant, but are we being critical of the way they look, the way they act, the way they smell, the way they talk. Maybe it's their accent, on their words, whatever it is. Just check ourselves to make sure that that's not what we're doing, okay? Because if we're doing that, if we have this little mental critique on everything, and if we're looking for something to judge, then we may have an issue with chasing honor. So remember that criticism, if we're critiquing, that is implying judgment. So we don't want to be caught in that catch-22 of, well, I just want to give a little critique here and there, to help someone maybe better themselves. But understand that that is actually judgment, and we have to really back away from that. And this is where we need to practice our midot of silence. So sometimes if you can't say something nice, it's better not to say anything at all. And I know that some of us were taught that lesson when we were just small children. I can remember my mother saying that. Remember, if you can't say something nice, then it's better just not to say something at all. So that's something that we can practice. So let's remember, don't be critical, because being critical and criticizing means judging. And so critiquing someone is really, it's not nice. It's actually a lashon hara, and it's better left quiet. Now, we're taught here in one of our Mussar books that really there's no such thing as constructive criticism. Now, that may be something that you're not familiar with. Maybe you have always thought, well, we all need a little constructive criticism. But did you know that the very idea of criticism is not constructive? Criticism is actually a demeaning thing. It's a humiliating, it's an opportunity to actually humiliate a person and cause them to feel dejected and farther crush their esteem and their ego. So we're taught that there are ways that if we feel that it's important to help someone in some way, perhaps they've just given a speech, it says, and you feel that maybe their speech was not given with exuberance. Maybe it was just too mundane or too low keyed, and maybe it needed to be, a little more exciting, maybe a little more information imparted within it, or so forth. And so immediately after the speech is over, you want to rush up to the orator, and maybe you want to say, "Oh, that was so amazing! I really enjoyed it. Such a great speech." And then you want to say, however, I would like to give you just a little bit of constructive criticism. Well, at that moment, at that very moment, all of the accolades that you've just given that person have just been crushed and annihilated because all they're hearing is, I didn't measure up. It wasn't done well. I am not a good achiever. I and so basically you are really hurting that person by saying the very word criticism. So there are ways that we can help others by giving them an encouragement. And the way we have to do that, for instance, would be to give it time. Let time pass between the time that you give someone um, an accolade or appreciation before you give them any kind of a critique about something that they have done, the way they handle something, or so forth. Give it some time and think of what you're going to say, and think of how if someone said those very same words to you, how that would make you feel. Would you be able to take that as constructive, or would once again it make you feel devalued? And if you know that if that's those same words were spoken to you, would be of a good consequence or a negative consequence, then compare that to how you would feel. And if you feel as though emotionally it would just maybe make you feel devalued, then just don't say it. It's better left unsaid than, God forbid, it would be a negative impact on that person's soul. Okay, so I hope that helps us understand a little bit about criticism and being judging, and instead of giving honor. So this is one of the things that we can see, that there's the definition of honor. Let's think about that, for instance, before we go today. Some of the definitions of honor are this: to have a high respect for. If you really respect something, you're going to give honor to that person. And sometimes it begins with inanimate things. If you respect and honor the vehicle that God has provided for you, something that Rabbi and I've learned is that you will respect that vehicle. How do you show respect to a vehicle? Well, it's a gift that God has given you, and therefore you're going to keep it clean. You're going to take 5. You're going to have that oil change to help keep that motor running properly. You're going to operate that car in such a way that you're not going to overtax the engine or overtax the tires. And there's just little things like this that you are showing respect and honor to the Creator by respecting and taking care of the things that God has given you. Well, do you know that you are one of God's gifts to creation? Yes, you are. Now, I know that some of us have heard the saying, well, that person thinks they're God's gift to the world, or God's gift to, this or that. Well, we are God's gift, and therefore we should respect ourselves and take care of ourselves, and not be criticizing and cruel to other people. But as a gift to other people, we should be encouraging and uplifting and helping others to be the best that they can be. So, to honor someone is to show great esteem. Esteem one another. And this is one of the things that Yeshua taught us, and we see in the Torah that we should do unto others those things that we would want others to do unto ourselves. And that means to show honor to others and respect others more than we can even honor or respect ourselves. And the way that we do that is by showing honor and respect and esteeming others before we esteem ourselves. And we do that in just the little things. One of the ways that we show honor and respect to others is just in our community. It is our custom that at Oneg, as we're all gathering into the buffet line, is that we're careful to not just run up and rush to the buffet line and kind of bully our way to be the first one there, but we defer others and we allow others to go before ourselves, and we can kind of look around and see how we can respect our elders, respect others as we are gathering together there at the buffet line. And as we look at the food, even in the trays, and I know this may seem so simplistic, but it's the way that we can show respect and honor to others. We can look at the food that's there and kind of gaze around at the room and say, well, there's only 5 pieces of this left, and I see that there's 20 people behind me. So maybe I should leave that and go to the next tray and think about the ones that are behind me, instead of like, oh, this is one of my favorite things, and I think I'm just going to take 2 of them, and too bad for those that were behind me. So it's just little things like that to show honor and respect. And sometimes we've had, had fun at the buffet line saying, no, you take that, it's the last one. And the next person saying, no, you take that, I'd rather you have it. And sometimes we get in a little argument about who is going to be honored by taking that last piece. So it's just so respectful and wonderful. And we're told that when we do something that's kind for others, that that there's actually a scientific thing that happens within our brain that's connected with doing a mitzvah for someone, that actually that there is something released in our brain that is equal to happiness. So it's, Torah tells us that it is better to give than to receive. And why is that? It is more blessing. There's more blessing in giving to others than it is to receive the gift from others. Well, could it be that scientists has actually discovered that when we do acts of kindness for another person, that there is a kind of a euphoria. There's this thing that is released within us, this feeling of being satisfied, this feeling of joy, this feeling of happiness. And there is the blessing. There is the blessing there. So remember that one mitzvah leads to another mitzvah. And the more mitzvahs that we do for others, the more we want to do. Why? Because there's that blessing that we're receiving. There's that joy. There's that happiness. And that fills up that big old dark hole of always wanting to be appreciated and receiving respect and honor from others. And yes, we all want to be loved and respected. And the way we can do that is the more we honor and respect others, the more people are going to honor and respect us. And we don't have to chase after honor. We don't have to chase after respect, because as we are giving those gifts to others, it will come back to us. So remember, as we plant that seed of honor and we plant that seed of respect, it's like a field. We're planting those seeds, and we will then see a harvest. And we don't have to run after those things, but the harvest is there for us to enjoy in the future. So our author says today that it is more blessed to give than to receive. And so let's give honor where honor is due. Honor, those that are receiving honor are those who are usually those that are selfless. And we look at those who we have given here in the United States. We give the Medal of Honor to those in the military who have gone what? Beyond the call of duty, beyond what was expected of them. And that's what we have to think about in our midot. We have to go beyond what's just expected. Any of us can do what's expected because it's just mundane. It's just, you know, that thing that we have to do because it's just what's expected. But Hashem wants us to go beyond ourselves and go beyond what's expected and go beyond the love of God, what He wants us to do, what He wants us to get out of just what's expected of us and out of ourselves and go beyond. So today, I encourage us. Let's go beyond ourselves. Let's go beyond just what's satisfying to us, what's meaningful to us, what's going to make us feel good about ourselves, where we can pat ourselves on the back just by doing what's expected. But let's go above and beyond the call of duty, and let's think about doing something for others that is for the sake of the kingdom. And this is kavod. This is avodah. This is our service to Hashem. And as we do that, we are going to be greatly rewarded. So as we go forward, let's remember that it's about teshuvah. Every day there is something in ourselves that we can do better, that we can turn from self-seeking and go forward and seek others and seek the good of others for the sake of the kingdom. So B'Shem Yeshua, we can do this, and I encourage you today to take 5 and let's think about honoring one another.